right, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I hope you guys are having a good week so far. As you know, the Super Bowl is coming up this Sunday between the Chiefs and the Eagles and their referees. It should be a pretty good three-way battle. The Eagles, I think, are gonna try their best. They're gonna try their hardest, but unfortunately, I think they're gonna come up short. Anyway, my video today, I wanted to make. There's been a lot of speculation. A lot of speculation. As a matter of fact, 80% of NFL fans think that at the very least something's very suspicious about the Chiefs and the way they get calls and how everything seems to go their way. 80% of fans, that's a fact, you can look it up. So it's not just me or a couple other guys just saying it. It's a fact. And I want to make something perfectly clear here is I have no skin in this game. I'm not a Chiefs fan for sure, and I'm not an Eagles fan either. I just want to see good, fair football. I want to see good, fair sports in general. I don't care if it's baseball, hockey, what it is. But this is coming out in light more so with football than any other sport going on. I never hear this in hockey. If you do, it's very rare. Maybe Sidney Crosby gets a call, somebody trips him, but nothing that ever affects a game. Baseball, the strike zone is more or less the strike zone. There are some umpires that kind of lean one way or the other a little bit, but they can't do it too much. They really are held accountable, I think, in other sports, as to where football, it just seems like it's just you just run amok. You can do anything you want, say anything you want, call anything you want. I mean, let's be honest here. On any given play in football, you could call holding. On somebody is holding a jersey, somebody's holding a something. You could. It's such a subjective call that you could call it anytime you want. And because of that, I think is what allows referees to use it unfairly. There's no yes or no. It's such a gray line, and that goes with any penalty, defensive hold, pass interference. Some refs call it, some refs don't. Some let it go, some don't. It's just so subjective in the NFL. That, I think, to me, is the biggest problem with the league, is that the penalties can be called or they can't be called. And when you see them always called against a certain team that determines the outcome of a game, this is where this conspiracy theories, if you want to call them that. Personally, I don't call them conspiracy theories, because as soon as you call somebody a conspiracy theorist, they already think that you've been abducted by aliens, you went to another planet, you believe in little green men, and you believe everything. They label you that to make you look like a crazy person, like a nutcase. And I don't think that's what it is. It's not a conspiracy. It's just based off of facts. People think this. Now, I want to show you guys a video real quick. A guy I watch on ESPN, he's called Chris Mad Dog Russo. He's an ESPN analyst. He's always on the show with Stephen A. Smith. I like to watch those guys. I like Mad Dog. He goes on these crazy rants. And by crazy, I don't mean crazy. He's out of his league saying that. He goes on them because he believes in them. He went on one the other day on ESPN about this Chiefs situation and the referees and what Roger Goodell said, and what the head of the officiating said, and blah, blah, blah. So I want to play this for you real quick. I'm going to have to put my headphones on so I can actually listen to it with you. But please listen to what he says here. He really goes off on a rant, and I think it's really telling. Just listen to the facts of what he's telling you. So I'll go ahead and play the video now.
What Goodell said in his press conference with the media on a couple days ago, and now Scott Green, the head of the NFL officials, the union press, basically saying that anybody who thinks there's a conspiracy with the Chiefs and penalty calls and everything else doesn't know they're fanning from their elbow. I mean, here is the idea that consulting and Scott Green, here's the quote about the fact that, 17 games, all these officiating crews, and the scenario that Kansas City doesn't get a break with the calls. And Goodell said...
Now listen to what this guy said and what Roger Goodell said real closely. Listen to what they said. You're absolutely nuts if you think that they lean toward the Chiefs. Watch.
The same thing. Why? What a joke. How can anybody make a big deal about the calls? Well, I make a big deal about the calls because I've been following sports like Stevie has, Damien has, for a very long time. A lot longer than Scott Green ever did, and older than Goodell. I've been doing this for 55 years. You want to talk about calls?
Now, listen to this very, very closely how he spits out these facts. And remember, the facts he's giving now are not facts that happened during the season. This has been happening, he'll explain this, since 2021 in playoff games, not regular season games, not meaningless playoff games. This is what he's talking about.
And about the Chiefs getting calls in the postseason? Well, let's take a look at this little graphic as far as Kansas City is concerned. And I'll run them by here for you. I don't know. Let me get my glasses on so I can see what the heck. I can't see it from this far. Bottom line is, Kansas City, in their last 9 playoff games, do you know there have been 11 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties called on Kansas City?
Let me freeze that right there. He just said their last 9 playoff games. Look at this disparity between penalties, the Chiefs and their opponents.
Compared to on the opponent and only 2 on Kansas City. Did you know the total penalties in their last 9 playoff games are 66 against the opponent and 36 against Kansas City?
That seems fair.
Did you know that defensive pass interference or holding penalties 11-1? Did you know that their last 11 playoff games, 10 of the 11 times, the opponent has had more penalty yards than the Chiefs? For crying out loud. And you're going to sit there and
look at their
me
faces.
The Chiefs, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but if you're Scott Green and you're Goodell, you're going to sit there and tell me that we look at this equally? How could you say that? Look at these. I mean, we can go show these all night with these penalties against Houston. The
look at that.
Like conducts, the late hits. That one is a disgrace in which they called would set Kansas City up for a field goal. And here is the one. I mean, it's ridiculous. The amount of calls that can't. 66 to 36, okay? 11 personal fouls to 2. 11 defensive penalties in the secondary to 1. And you're going to sit there as Scott Green and Goodell and tell me, well, you know, it's got nothing to do with it. Come on. Jordan got calls. LeBron gets calls. Gretzky got calls. Barry Bonds got strike zone calls. Randy Johnson got the benefit of the doubt. Greg Maddox got the winner. All great players.
Look at her face. She's like wishing, man, I wish this guy didn't go on this rant.
And teams get breaks. And for Green and for Goodell to sit there and not acknowledge that is a complete, utter disgrace. We're not stupid. Sports fans are smart. They're sophisticated. I can tell you chapter and verse of how Kansas City has gotten every break known to man. Now, they're a great team. And Mahomes is great. But 66 to
I don't know if I'd say that, but
11-1 in sportsmanlike conduct penalties, that says it all. It's embarrassing what Green and Goodell did this week. That's number 2.
Okay, so I'm going to play a few more minutes here because Stephen A. tries to rebut him here just a little bit. He doesn't really do it, but he does try to do it a little bit. But his facts are based on seasonal facts. Mad Dog was talking about postseason when it matters. What favoritism they get in postseason games. That's when it matters. I don't give a damn how many penalties they get during the season. Who cares? When it comes down to it, the nitty gritty, when it's a playoff game, when it's to the end of a game, when it makes a difference, they get the calls. Mad Dog just showed you just some of the facts that prove that they lean the Chiefs' way. I'll let Stephen A. talk for. I'll show this part of him for a couple seconds.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, let me tell you what is stupid. You're far from stupid. The sport fan is far from stupid. But anybody who expects the commissioner and an executive for the NFL to acknowledge what you wanted them to acknowledge could be stupidity applies. How about?
Yeah, there you go. That's the smartest thing he said right now is that. If you think Roger Goodell is going to come out and tell you, of course we favor the Chiefs. Of course we want them to win. Of course they're our piggy bank. Or the head of the officials union, whatever they are going to come out and say, oh, of course we favor those guys. You are an asshole because they're not going to come out and say that. What do you think Goodell's going to say? Yeah, you guys are right. We do favor them. Of course he's going to say that.
What do you expect them to do? The commissioner's going to go up there and just, that is just asinine.
Exactly.
Number one. Number two. Fouls drawn, because I looked this up, got the NFL, I got this from the NFL office and from my stats. Fouls drawn per 100 hits in the year 2024.
Now remember this. This is fouls drawn per 100 hits in the season 2024. He's not talking about playoff games. He's talking about the season. I'm talking about the playoffs when it matters, when they need that boost over the edge, they get it.
Season of 2024. Do you know where Patrick Mahomes ranks? He ranks 8th tied with Goff and Mayfield, Baker Mayfield, but behind Tua Tagovailoa, Josh Allen, Bryce Young, okay, this kid Rush, and Cooper Rush in Dallas, and of course Kyler Murray. What I'm saying to you is this: yes, you're stars and you get calls, and I get that part. But we complain about that. We've complained about the officiating every single Greeny.
Okay, so let me take my headset off because I don't need it anymore. I just wanted to listen to that again with you guys and tell you this. Both of them just basically agreed that the officiating's bad and this team gets calls. Simply by definition, that makes it unfair. It's as simple as that. You can't say anything else. If you don't call a game down the line, black and white, each team gets penalized and called equally, then by definition, it's not fair. And when you see these kind of facts where this team seems to always get the call when they need a drive to continue, when they need their opposing team to stop a drive, they get a penalty, sets them back, they can't do it. That it happens. It happens all the time. Now, if you can't see that, you're a Chiefs fan or you are just blind. I want to think that when I watch a game, I know that it's going to be fair. And I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes, Michael Jordan. I don't give a shit who it is. Call it fair, because if you don't, then by definition, it's not fair. You're leaning towards another team by giving them the call. It is just plain and simply put, that is the fact. And this Super Bowl, I think, is going to be no different. I'm going to make a video probably tomorrow or maybe Saturday. And I'll be quite honest with all of you guys. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the Super Bowl this year. I'm just so disgusted with watching the referees lean toward this team and favor this team and push this team over the edge for whatever agenda, for whatever reason they have to do it. They do it, and they do it game after game. It's just obvious. Mad Dog just showed some very, very simple stats that you could look up on your own. And I wonder how many of those calls he talks about that are just grossly one-sided toward the Chiefs. How many of those calls happen in the last 5 minutes of a game, the last 10 minutes of a game, when the Chiefs are losing and they need to keep a drive going? How many of those calls come? How many of those 11 defensive holding calls come at the right time? And the Chiefs have one. Those are facts you can't dispute. And that shows and proves that they lean towards one team or the other. I don't care what Roger Goodell says. I don't care what anybody says. Of course he's going to say that. Like Stephen A. said, he's going to say that it's fair. You guys are crazy to think that we do that. What do you think he's going to say? He's not going to say, of course we do. I watched a guy the other day on a news network. I won't mention the network. I watched a guy. They were talking about the Super Bowl and everything, and this guy, he's another sports guy. I can't remember the guy's name, actually. If I did, I would say it. He was being interviewed by one of the news broadcasters, and he was talking about, yeah, of course. And this is what he said. He said, of course, Mahomes gets the calls. Of course, the Chiefs get the calls. Michael Jordan got the calls. LeBron gets calls. This one, that one. He said this right on television, and he goes, "What's the big deal? It's been like that forever." And I'm sitting there watching the news, and I'm thinking, dude, you just made everybody's point for them. You just said they get the calls. When you get the calls, it is not legitimate. It just isn't. You can't favor one team or another. If you want to do that during the season, and who cares about game one, I guess do it. You shouldn't do it ever, but do it. But when it's the playoffs, when it's a championship game, when it's a Super Bowl, then it makes a big difference. It's a big deal to me. That's why I will continue from this day on to call football the National Football Entertainment League, because that's what they are. They are the WWE with pads. They are the WWE with the outcome. They already have it guessed. They already know it. Maybe they don't determine it, but they certainly take them scales and tilt them the way toward where they want to tilt. You can't deny that. You can't even ignore it anymore. It is a fact. So, listen, I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Hit that like button if you did, and don't be afraid. Share my video if you feel up to it or you want to. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a lot. I appreciate all everybody's comments. I'll be talking to you in the next day or so. Got a lot of other news coming up. A lot to talk about. So I'll be talking to you guys soon. Have a good day. Talk to you later.